Welcome to Women in B2B Marketing, a show where CMOs, VPs of marketing, and all strong women leaders in B2B discuss their top tactics, strategies, and tips for building high-performing teams, leveraging trends, and ultimately rocking their marketing careers. Made by and for women, insightful for all. I'm your host and 15-year B2B marketer, Jane Serra. Let's dive in. Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for joining us for an episode of Women in B2B Marketing. I am so excited. We have the one, the only Lashay Lewis back for episode number 2 on Women in B2B Marketing. Gosh, when you were first on the show, Lashay, you were one of the first, if not the first, guest to give me goosebumps multiple times in the episode. I just left our conversation feeling so empowered and motivated and just like extremely happy. I wanted to have you back on, A, to refuel that, and B, because you have grown so much. You were already on fire then. And now to see where you've grown and what you're sharing on LinkedIn and with your company, Authority Plug, I'm just so excited to hear about your solopreneur journey and teach us your ways, Lashay. So welcome back to the show. Let's dive in.
So, Jane, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me back. So many things have happened since I last came on the show, and your show was a very pivotal moment for me. It was the first podcast I ever got vulnerable on. So I'm so happy and so grateful to be back and just be able to not just, catch you guys up on some stuff, but to be able to teach you some stuff too. Always. Yes.
I'm pumped. Guys, before we just turned on the mics, and forgive me, I was just showing Lashay, my mic has broken. So if my sound is really ghetto, just like look at the frayed. If you can't see, I was showing my frayed mic. It's like completely burnt. I don't know what happened. This is what happens when you throw things in your bag and head to WeWork real fast. But I'm so excited. Before we turned on the mic, I was already getting teary-eyed talking to Lashay because I'm just so, God, it sounds silly to say proud because it's not anything to do with me, but I'm so just happy through you to see you do so well. And I'm excited to dive into what you've achieved and what you've learned, right? The good and the bad.
So many lessons to share with everybody. Yes.
Yes. And use the term that I wrote that I love, inner growth. So you can dive into that. So Lashay, first, let me finish introducing you. She is the founder. If you do not know of her, trust me, you will follow her after this episode on LinkedIn. She's the founder of Authority Plug. She is BOFU content extraordinaire, SaaS advisor, B2B advisor, and just she's always dropping gems lately of always BOFU content. So really what BOFU content is, how to get into it, how to make it convert, and what you're doing wrong with your BOFU content. But also now she's started to share lots of her lessons on the solopreneur journey and switching from in-house to your own business. So excited to dive into that. Tell us about how things have evolved for you over the past year or so.
Wow, just everything. I don't even know where to start. Okay, so if we want to start business-wise, just being able to really get a grasp on the thing that I do, and Jane, as you said, bottom of funnel strategy for B2B SaaS companies, really just leaning into that, really leaning into the consultancy thing. Within that, being able to productize that knowledge, right? So one of the things that happened to me, and I don't know if people can relate, but when you're on this journey, it kind of starts off as very, very slow. And it's you're doing all these things and nothing seems to be working. And then one day you run into something and then it just clicks and then it seems like everything starts to work. But there's a problem with both of those things, right? So on one hand, when you feel like nothing is working, that's when the self-doubt starts to creep in and just the self-sabotage and all this other stuff. But then on the flip side, once you do, quote, make it and things start working, what happens is a flood of opportunities, a flood of different business ideas, and all of this stuff starts to come up. And now it's different than what you were dealing with before. So now you kind of have to learn the nuances of this type of feeling, because this is a different feeling. I'm used to things not working, not everything working. When I say everything, I mean absolutely everything, but it's just different opportunities coming up. And I find that if you didn't have a high self-worth before that, It's very easy to get sucked into any and everything. So what I mean by that is you should always feel grateful, right? Like, but you start to feel grateful for stuff that, I'm trying to figure out how to word this.
Yeah.
You start to feel grateful for stuff, not just stuff that you deserve, but almost like if somebody's offering you something, you almost feel like, me? Oh my God, me? I can't believe they're offering that to me. Like, what did I do? Why am I so great? Right. And you just get, and with me, it was almost like an identity crisis, right? Because I went from nobody knows who I am, what I do, to all of a sudden, like, an overflow of just support and love and just like, you know what I mean? And a part of me was like, internally, I need to match externally what they see. And then that's when like a little bit of the, maybe identity crisis is over dramatic, but a little bit of that started to set in. And I was like, you know what? Let me just like step back a little bit, get myself together and just really like lean into who I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like even outside of that stuff, but just like in the midst of trying to do that, just trying to be able to get my business better productized so I don't have to spend as much time in the business, right? Spending more time on it from September 2023 to June or July of 2024. So for context, business started scaling in September of 2023. And I got scared and I was like, okay, can I get tech to help me do this, right? Can I get a software to help me do this thing so I don't have to hire people? Because I was afraid of hiring people. And I had come from an agency culture where I seen how they did things and I absolutely did not agree with how they did things. And I was afraid that I was turning into that. So I was like, okay, let me just see if I could do this thing. Introducing Bofu.ai, right? That's the software that I was working on for maybe like 8 or 9 months or so. 2 mistakes with that. So here comes the lessons. Okay. First of all, if you're scared to do something, do it anyway. I think that's the first thing. Like whatever you're afraid to do, do it. Because honestly, the way my life has changed, every big thing that has happened to me was on the other side of whatever I was afraid of. Right. So you need to do it scared. The second thing, and this is like a little bit more tactical, if you're using software to help you run your business, you need to create a clear delineation on whether you are a 1, software as a service, or 2, a tech enabled service. Right. So with me, when I was advising clients, I got the 2 things mixed up. Right. So I was trying to charge advising prices with software style execution. And I didn't realize that I was in software territory until I had lost a deal to copy.ai. And I was like, why am I losing deals to copy.ai? Like, what's going on? But then the light bulb went off and I was like, oh, I think I might be in software territory.
Wow. Yeah. It's also really cool though. It's like a whole new level. Like
cool. Yeah, that's cool. I was like, okay, we're, look at me, little old me competing with, but no, like it was wild, right? So I had to come to a consensus of where I was like, where do you want to focus? You can't do both of these things at the same time. Like you need to focus. And for me, clients just get the value out of consulting, right? So if we rewind back to September of 2023, again, being afraid to scale and me trying to put a whole software in place just so I wouldn't have to be in the predicament to scale or scale with more people, rather. Fast forward to October of 2024. This was 1 month after I had my first public talk at Drive. And yes, and that whole experience was very humbling. It helped me reset a little bit, right? Because the reason I couldn't easily switch from, okay, well, I was doing the software thing, now I need to go back to consulting. It was a very difficult switch back to consulting because in my mind, I'm like, I spent so much money on this thing. I spent so much time on this thing. Like, this is my baby, like it's mine. You know what I mean? I want people. And the feedback I got out was amazing. It was really, really good. But the best feedback somebody can give you is paying you for the thing that you're doing. It's the absolute best feedback. So it was like, for me, it was an ego thing. It was like, you know what? I worked really hard on this thing. I think maybe I just need to push it a little bit more. But Drive was that reset for me. It's okay that the thing didn't work. Just put a pin in it and lean into what you are good at. Do it afraid. Because obviously I'm going to have to bring in some people not named Lashay to help me run this, right? But it's so weird. It's almost like a continuation of from where I started in September of 2023. So now October of 2024 was the continuation of that. And if I would have just took my own advice and I'm not saying like I didn't learn so many lessons doing the Bofu.ai thing. Like I literally was building a software from the ground up. So many lessons in there, but I had to take my own advice. I had to do the things scared. So now I'm at a point where it's like, okay, time to scale. It's time to bring subcontractors in. It's time to grow this thing.
Very cool. Okay, so there's so much I want to unpack in there. Available OER. No, this is so cool. So the tech side of things, do you feel like now, and nothing ever, I think one thing I'm learning from what you're saying, we need to stop putting ourselves in a box, ironically, as I'm in a box at WeWork. But we have to be able to pivot and just follow these paths that it takes us, right? And we learn things from each journey outside of our core path. So Bofu.ai, are you now leaning into being tech-enabled service to your earlier point of either being SaaS or tech-enabled? Cool. Yeah. So you're still leveraging the tech, but now for the services component is what you're...
Absolutely. And that was the mistake I made before, right? So when I would get on sales calls, I would lead with the tech and be like, oh, look at this cool thing. And for context, the reason I came out with this thing, because I seen a clear gap in the market, right? Yeah. No other AI writing copilot could write bottom of funnel content. Jasper can't do it. Copy.ai, I can't do it. And the funny thing, the person that I had lost to Copy.ai had came back to me and was like, I really like Bing. I mean, no shade. But they were like, yeah, your thing is really good. But again, I was charging advising prices for a software. And if I would have charged software prices for software, could have easily competed, I feel like. But, I'm like, okay, I've built this consulting thing up to where it's at. Let me put the blinders on, focus, and lean into this thing. And ever since I made that mental switch and put the ego to the side, that's when that growth started to pick up from where it was in September of 23.
Very, very cool. So none of this, if you went back and could rewind, you wouldn't change any of that, right? Because all of these were lessons that you had to learn to get you to where you are now.
Yes. I would change
not back in. Yeah, you're not back in 2023. Now you're a whole new mindset that you have, having gone down this path. Now you're here in this new 2025. Very cool.
Yes.
And when you're scaling out, does this mean, you said you're going to hire or work with subcontractors? Are you seeing yourself becoming an agency? And I know that word, I feels like that word gives you the ick, which I get because I came from the agency world too, so I get it. But what is next then for Authority Plug? And is it that part of your business that you're making more beyond the consultancy or bringing in contractors for?
I would say, I think positioning is everything. So even if it is an agency, mentally, me calling it a boutique consultancy feels better to me, right? And maybe some people would say, well, that's an agency. Okay. But to me, because it does give me the ick. I'm just because I hate the way agencies run. The thought is just to bring subcontractors in to do the thing that I'm not amazing at. And that's actually the writing, surprisingly, right? So my whole business is ran off of frameworks. And the reason that I created these frameworks, remember, if we go back to the first episode we had, remember I talked about leaning into weaknesses. The frameworks were created because I was leaning into the weaknesses of not being able to write quickly. It takes me 2 months to write one blog post. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I gotta get somebody to help me with this, where it takes other people 2 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's now I have to leverage other people's skills and other people's talents and be able to step out the way and say, you know what? You're better than me at this thing, and let them sit where they are. But I think the cool thing about that is that now that the business is so productized, it's not as difficult to bring people in and train them up on the thing that I need them to do, right? And I talk about productizing your business a lot, but I think that's just one of the amazing things about it, where it's as scared as I was, I had actually built my business to be scalable, right? Because that scaling scares me, just straight up, right? It scares me. So now I think inherently what I was doing was building the business in a way where it's very difficult for me to make mistakes as far as like bringing or training subcontractors and bringing them in and plugging them into a process. And then again, positioning and thinking about things in a different perspective is everything. So
Yes.
in 2023, when I was working with companies, I was doing the same process I'm doing now, right? But I would train the in-house writers on how to fill in the frameworks. I'm like, wait a minute. If I could train them how to do it, I know I can find a subcontractor and train them on how to do it. You know what I mean? So I'm like, you know what? When you take a little bit of time and think about, and this goes back to the inner growth thing, like when you take some time and think about like the skills you have and how far you've come and what you've been through, and like stop cutting yourself short. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
So many questions. With these aha moments that you have where things just click and you're like, wait, I'm already doing that with my clients. I just need to do that with these contractors or subcontractors. Is there any advice you have for fueling and making these aha moments happen and changing this perspective?
Slow down. So I tend to be, I'm a very ambitious individual. Like I have lofty goals and big dreams, like a lot of us do. But I find like if you don't slow down, you'll spin out, right? So it's almost like when you're driving a car. I'm not promoting illegal street racing, but if you think about somebody like racing their car, and it's like sometimes you got to slow down to speed up a little bit, because sometimes if you speed up too much, what happens? The back wheels start wiggling, boom, car starts spin out, right? So like sometimes you just got to slow down a little bit and think like, okay, you need to look at yourself objectively, right? So like, what am I afraid of? Sometimes you got to talk to yourself too, right? Make it seem like you're crazy for doing that, but I talk to myself all the time, right? Like sometimes you literally just got to sit down and be like, what am I afraid of? Right? Okay, so I'm afraid of this, that, and the third. Why? Because I've had this experience and that experience. So is there any validity to those experiences? Like, what's the trauma surrounding that experience that's holding you back? Because for me, I didn't want to get on podcasts for a very long time, and that held me back. And the trauma around that, I said, okay, why don't I want to get on podcasts? Well, because I don't like hearing my voice. I don't like seeing myself on camera. I don't like to. Why? Well, because I was bullied a lot when I was younger. You know what I mean? Like you gotta dig. You have to dig for that. And then once you have that quiet time with yourself, and you start to learn yourself as if you were sitting with another person. Like you talking to the person you're learning, and sometimes you gotta like learn yourself a little bit. And then once I started learning who I was, then I was able to like lean into those strengths and be like, you know what? I'm built for this. Like, I'm not going to let anybody tell me what I can and can't do. And I mentioned this before in a post somewhere. I'm like, the only no that matters is the one you tell yourself, because I don't know if I mentioned this on the first podcast, but I'm like, before I got on Exit 5, I had pitched like, oh man, probably like 10, 12, 15 other podcast hosts. Everybody told me, no, come back, because nobody knows who I was, right? Now imagine if I would have let all those people told me no diminish my self-esteem. Like, you know what? Maybe they're right. Like, maybe I don't, nobody knows who I am anyway. And didn't say, let me just do one more. And then reach out to Dave. And that was the catalyst for everything. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's why I always say the biggest no is the one you tell yourself. I don't care who tells you no. Like you, and a lot of people probably don't know what they're capable of. But as somebody coming from somebody that did struggle mentally with a lot of different stuff that held me back business wise. And I put this in a post the other day. I'm like, I thought that it was going to be the business that took me out of the depression and all that stuff. Like I just knew it. I knew it. But it was the opposite way around. It was like I had to come up out of that dark place to even get the business to grow to a point where I needed it to. Like the confidence first and then everything else. But people get stuck in the part where it's like, I got to be confident. I don't have any results around me to be confident. Like, what am I confident about? You know what I mean? It's like, if you can get through that period, like you're good. Like everything else just starts to, and I don't know. And I'm huge on that because it was such a struggle for me. And a lot of times I just have to sit and think like, damn, like what if I let all those people dictate my future just because you told me no? Now I'm going to turn around and beat myself up and tell myself, no, absolutely not.
So first of all, this feels like therapy in a wonderful way. I just had a session. See, I'm calling it sessions. Maybe this is like a therapy podcast. I just had an episode with Erica Schneider, and I felt the same like way where it was like a therapy session. I'm like, I'm realizing all these things about myself. So like as I'm talking to you and hearing you speak, how did you, because I understand you worked through confidence, right? Or lack of confidence at first.
Yes.
And you also mentioned earlier doing it scared, right? Like you can be scared, do it anyway. Do you think that doing it anyway and then coming out the other end helped with your confidence, or what helped build this confidence for you?
Knowing that I was right all along, even when full circle moments, right? So when somebody tells you no to something, so let me tell you like a little I've had, oh my God, the best thing about coming up out of that dark place are full circle moments. And I'm glad we're talking about this because I should be writing these down, but like even like a mini little quote full circle moment is like those other podcast hosts that I had pitched. Once I had got on Dave's show, and it went viral, whatever that means, you know what I mean? People seen it. Those same hosts that told me no came back around and was like, do you want to get on the show? That's what I mean yes, that's what I mean when I say full circle moments. I mean, it's like, not like a ha got you type of thing, but it almost gets kind of like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who the hell are you to tell me? Oh, right. Almost, you have to be careful with this, but and I know it kind of like contradicts what I said earlier, but you almost have to take it personal. Don't take it personal in a way that's going to like make you sad. Take it personal, like, watch, I'll show you. You know what I mean? Like, and so I had a chip on my shoulder from the get-go, which is why I'm very like, just.
And that pushed you.
Yes. Very ambitious and just driven. And because I have a chip on my shoulder, I still do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think I talked about this in the first episode, but right before I got on the pod, I was in a deep season of no's. Like everybody was telling me no to everything. Can I get this job? No. Can I do this thing? No. Like, you know, can I work for this consultancy? No. And I got pissed off with people telling me no. And again, it's like, take it personal, but channel that energy, right? Because you've got two options. You can channel the energy in a way that makes you sad and depressed about it, or you can channel that energy and say, you know what? I'm going to use this to drive me forward because nobody's going to tell me my worth and what I can and cannot do.
I feel like this is so powerful. I have goosebumps again. I knew it, Lashay. I feel like right now, the past year or two feels like the season of no for so many of us. That like we were just hearing that with layoffs happening despite, you know, as the economy, I don't know, it's up and down. There's lots of things going on, but lots of people are still losing their jobs, not like interviewing thousands of interviews and just getting hit and knocked down and knocked down. So I think this is the perfect time to hear this. Like you're here. We've all had these periods of no, everyone. Like we've been there. They happen.
Yes.
They're going to happen again. But how we channel that anger, that chip on our shoulder is what matters. So
yes,
I love that you sit down and literally talk to yourself. I haven't done this myself. I need to, but I need to get past the feeling weird about it thing. Like talking to yourself and being like, Jane, why are you like saying your name, I heard helps because it feels like you're talking to another person that way.
Yeah.
So any other recommendations for people going through and feeling this period, this season of no, to get out of there? And maybe it's time to start exploring that solopreneur journey.
Erica Schneider had put up a post one time and it resonated with me so hard. I can't remember what she said verbatim, but it was something like, nothing is ever really the way it seems on the outside, right? So I had a problem at one point looking at everybody else and being like, damn, like, why do they have it so good? Like, what did they do that I'm not doing? Like, I've been busting my ass for this amount of time. Like, I've been working hard. Like, what is it? That's when your brain starts running everywhere. And not to say these are not real issues. These are very real issues, but it's all about how much you let these issues dictate how far you get. Because at a certain point, when you keep hearing no, your brain just starts opening up to more negative stuff. So like, oh, well, maybe they're telling me no because I'm Black. Maybe they're telling me no because I'm a woman. Maybe they're telling me no because it just snowballs into. So she put up this post and it was like, just remember, and it was a ton of examples. It was so good. She said, just remember when you see somebody on a high. They just came from a low, right? Like it was so good, but it was like, try to keep that with me and remember that. Because like people see me now and they're like, oh, Lashay is doing so well and look how awesome she is and blah, 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 blah. Hopefully people say good things about me. But you know what I mean? At one point for a very long time, it was not like that. Like it was a lot of depression. It was a lot of self-sabotage. It was a lot of no's and just low self-esteem and just, it was night and day from what it is right now. So just because you see me like this right now, it's a growth process, right? I didn't start off like this. I didn't wake up like this. You know what I mean? Like I had to go through the motions and it was tough. You know what I mean? And I'm not perfect now. Like I still go through stuff. You know what I mean? Like the whole identity crisis thing and not being used to being vulnerable in front of people. And, you know, but I feel like I have to be, that's who I am as a person. Like I did so much stuff mentally where I'm like, I can't not talk about it. I just can't. So I just want to encourage people, like, don't look at somebody else and let that discourage you because you don't know what that person's been through.
Yeah.
And a lot of social media is a facade anyway. Like people, a lot of people aren't going to show the struggles. They're just going to show the highlight reels because that's what social media is. It's a highlight reel.
Even LinkedIn, folks.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Instagram is probably the worst. I know we're very like LinkedIn centric folks over here, but out of all the social medias, LinkedIn's probably, I mean, Instagram is probably the worst when it comes to.
Oh, for sure. I've unfollowed anything that makes me feel bad about myself. Here's your myself too. Done.
Study around that. You know what I mean? But I could see how that could, right. But the thing is, it's like, I could see how that could leak over into LinkedIn too. And they're like, oh, you know, I made $50,000 this month. And you're just thinking like, I've been busting my ass too. Like, when is my breakthrough going to come? You know what I mean? Like, and not enough people talk about that. Everybody's just like, oh, I did this month and I did that. Yeah, like, it's great. But like, what about the person that's reading this that's struggling right now? You know, they deserve to be talked to.
100%. I have such split feelings on this because I feel like there's all those jokes right now about I brought a company from X dollars to X billion dollars in X months. Like everyone's still doing that. Like even though it's a joke, people still do it seriously. Sometimes, especially solopreneur journeys and when other women post about financials, I love it because it gives us visibility into like possibilities and what could happen. And it opens our horizons, right? It's like why women should talk about money with each other because we're held down and we don't realize what box we're in until we see what others are making and it opens our eyes to new potential.
Yes.
But I have major comparison issues. I always have for it. Going into down the therapy route, I have an older sister, so we were always just put against each other now, but like always like, oh, Jane does this and Joel does this and like comparing ourselves. So I have that ingrained in me from my childhood. But I've learned to do the past few years is whenever I feel that coming about on LinkedIn, I message the person and I get to know them and we start chatting and it gets rid of that comparison, like bitterness or like that issue you have, you like overcome it. It breaks through it. Just knowing the person like, oh, they're awesome. Like I can learn from them. What are they doing? And you can like just learn and they become friends instead of somebody to compare yourself to, if that makes sense.
That's such a good point. And this has happened to me so many times over the past year where I'm like, oh man, like that person's got it going on. Like they just got everything working for them. And then 6 months later, we're in a group chat and they're like, well, I'm having this problem today. And I'm like, you know, you just like
celebrities. They're just like us.
Right. They're just like us. You know what I mean? So it's like, don't be so quick to put people on a pedestal. Right. Like we're all dealing with stuff. We all have problems. Like a lot of people are only going to tell you like the good stuff that happens when they had a record month. But are they going to tell you when the month wasn't as good or when they lost their biggest client or like a lot of people just aren't going to tell you those things. So but I love your advice on like when you see something like that and you feel that, like even just reaching out to the person can do so much. Because I've dealt with those same things, right? Of seeing people. Because again, I've been at this entrepreneurial stuff for so long. So I've got to watch people not just rise, but fall from the rise. You know what I mean? It's like, and then again, you're just thinking like, what is my time going to come? What am I going to be able to put up a post and talk about how much money I made, a particular month and stuff like that. But I love your advice on like just reaching out to the person and don't put people on a pedestal. Like we're all humans.
Yeah.
We all put our pants on one leg at a time. Like, like
I feel like we like to share with each other. So if we message each other and like just start a conversation, we can share what's working. Like one-to-one, you get a different story than what you're posting on a bigger network, right? You can be more vulnerable in that one-to-one setting once you have that trust.
So not saying everybody is like this, but some people feel like, well, I can't reach out to that person because they're not going to want to talk to me and they're going to be mean and things like that. That probably comes back to like the low self-esteem thing. I rarely find that somebody doing, quote, better than you wants to not see you win. Yeah. It's always the person that's not doing better than you that doesn't want to see you win.
That's
like,
true.
so, yeah.
Yes.
Like, so for me, when people reach out to me, they're like, oh, Lashay, how do I do this? I give out anything I possibly can give out, especially on the consulting side. If somebody to me and they're like, Shay, I want to leave my job. Like, what do you recommend? Like, what are the steps you took? I'm an open book. You know what I mean? Because
I want to double down on that because I feel like you and I could talk all day and I want to dive deep into so many topics. We'll have you back for a third, Lashay. We'll make it an every 6 months thing. But if somebody were messaging you today and they were stuck in their job or they just lost their job or lost their job last year and they're curious about the solopreneur journey or starting their own thing, what advice would you give to them? And is it for everybody?
It'll vary by person, right? So
yeah,
my advice in a step-by-step fashion is like condensed as I can get it. Step one would be understand your job description, right? So if you do a lot of things right now, and I know we've had this conversation on like the generalist thing, and I think there are absolutely a place for generalists, but here's what I found. Generalists typically do well in-house.
Yeah.
Consultants tend to do well when they niche down, right? So, and that's usually the gap that people get stuck at when they're in-house. They're used to having so many different functions that they try to make that consultant jump and keep all of those functions. You need to figure out what part of your job you like to do the best and then lean into that. Once you lean into that, you need to start creating systems and processes around that thing that you like to do, right? So this is where like the templates come in and the frameworks come in and all this other stuff that I talk about. Again, leaning into those weaknesses. If there's something that you like to do and maybe you're like, oh, well, it just takes me a really long time. So I love being a strategist, but I don't like writing. That's a part of the job description. So what I did was created an asset to be able to help me do the thing better. It also doubles as, good onboarding material when you onboard a subcontractor, right? So creating systems and processes around the things that you do. Again, tighten it up, create systems and processes around it. Look for companies. I think, and I tell people this, if you're like, oh, well, I don't know if people would pay me to consult for the thing I do. If you go on LinkedIn and look up job postings and it's your job description in there, 9 times out of 10, somebody will hire you as a consultant to do the same thing. So once you start like niching down, getting the processes in place, like start putting the content out. This was another mistake I was about to make. Not putting the content out again, the low self-esteem thing. Like, I don't know more than these smart people on this platform. Like everything I'm going to talk about, people know anyway. Like, what's the point? Don't think like
We've all thought that.
Right. Like, yes. You have knowledge that you're hoarding right now, that if you release it, that's where your abundance is at. It's in your head.
Yeah. Stop knowledge hoarding. I love that.
Stop knowledge hoarding. Like get it out on LinkedIn, like put it on LinkedIn. And if you have a lot of anxiety around posting, the best way to get through that is to start posting. Exposure therapy. So anything I'm afraid to do. So for me, public speaking, God, I'm terrified. That's like the most scariest thing to do, especially for an introvert like me. So what did I do? I had my first public talk. Boom, done. You know what I mean? Like, the thing you're afraid to do it. Exposure therapy. And just let it guide you, right? So as you start putting out the content, you'll start to get signals and people reaching out like, oh, you talked about this thing. The more you can get on the phone, the quicker you're going to find your positioning. So take those steps, right? Like, you've self-sabotaged yourself enough up until this point. Like, stop doing that. It was holding me back. And again, everything, not saying I have everything I ever wanted, but I'm happy, right? And that's something that I can say now that I could not say before. Everything that you want is on the other side of what you're afraid of. So do it. Do it.
I love that. A couple of things on the tactical side. I always wondered that myself. I'm sure others have thought about this. This has gotten in my way going out on my own one day in the future eventually.
Yeah.
Two things. How do you figure out pricing, like the tactical stuff of running your own business, right?
Yeah.
How do you figure out pricing? And then what about, like, at least in the US, insurance and taxes? Like, how do you find resources for all that?
So those are a lot of things I was worried about. Okay, so pricing first.
Yeah, sorry, that's a doozy of like 5 questions in one.
No, you're fine. In terms of pricing, so the way I do my pricing are in tiers. First of all, no matter what tier somebody chooses, you want to make sure they can get value no matter what they choose. Yeah. You also want to make sure, again, this goes back to the productizing thing. I'm very bullish on productizing because it frees up your time so much. But when it comes to pricing, you at least want to start out with, what am I going to be happy with from a cost perspective, right? So even, again, 3 tiers of packages, that first price is going to be, what is something that I'm going to be happy with? I don't have to do too much work. So for me, for example, my pricing, when I first started consulting, it started at $39.97 a month. So that's $3,997 a month. Every time I would get 3 sales on one package, I would up it by $1,000, right? So if I got 3 sales in that first one, I would up it to $4,997.
Yeah.
So I typically like to tell people, think about how much you make in-house and kind of like divide that up a little bit. If you know what your salary is, it's like, what do you think somebody would be willing to spend for that consultant wise, given that they don't have to take care of your insurance, they don't have to take care of anything like that. Think through that, right? And then when you start putting your pricing together, the 3 tiers of pricing there needs to be like a $2,000 spread between each tier. You could play with this a little bit. So again, for me, the pricing was $39.97 and then $59.97 and then $79.97. Now, your highest tier, you're going to be doing the most work, but you want it to be like, yeah, this is a lot of work I got to do, but I'm going to get paid for it. So I'm okay. Right. Yeah. So even having those 3 packages that way, I find helps retain clients longer, at least in my case. So one client will start from package 1 and they'll be like, you know what, Lashay, I want a little more. Then they'll go to package 2, or maybe they'll start at package 2 and be like, let's scale back a little bit and go to package 1. So you're giving them options within something so first of all, I want to say this lightly because I don't want to overwhelm people, but differentiation, right? So making sure your offer is differentiated. The way that you do that is doing it different than you see other people doing it. Like, so for me, when I seen agencies doing the same thing over and over, I'm like, I hate all of this. I'm going to do the exact opposite. And that is where my differentiation sprouted. So when you have tiered offerings within a differentiated offer, you're just giving people a playground to play within. You know what I mean? And it's like, again, productizing that offer will make sure it's like an assembly line for every client that comes through. Like, it's the same thing over and over and over. It'll keep you off the computer. It'll help you scale in the event that you want to do that. But a lot of times some people don't want to scale. They just want to, you know what, I'm good with 3 clients and then I'm straight, right?
Yeah.
And as far as like the insurance goes, the funny thing about that is most people you need are already on LinkedIn. Oh, there are people that consult with people specifically on insurance, solopreneurs that need insurance, people that run their own businesses that need insurance. Like, if you even just search on LinkedIn. So a lot of the stuff that I do and the people that I get in contact with are just based off of recommendation, right? Like, and it's funny because I tell people, it's like, if you're looking to make a certain income or do certain things, it's like, everybody that you need to get you where you want to go is probably just a connection away. Like, you know what I mean? Like, literally, that's how LinkedIn works.
Insurance, the training and that stuff. There's somebody you can consult with that can help guide you to the right place for all of this, the right answers.
Yes.
That makes so much sense.
Wow. Everybody
Good for me.
is in your network already. Everybody, and if they're not in your network, somebody you know knows a person.
Yeah. You need insurance. Ask Lashay who she uses for consulting, and she'll send you the person. Dirt message. Yeah, I love that. Because I think it's like you said earlier, I think we find things to get in our way. Like we find blockers because we're scared to scale or we're scared to do something, right? And we're scared to put ourselves out there as a solopreneur. So we find these things that are blockers for us. For me, insurance is like my mental blocker. I'm like, oh, but I'm so cozy with that.
It's a legitimate blocker. Insurance is not hell. Like, it's a legitimate blocker. But again, everybody you need is a connection or two away. Yeah. Like, there's nothing that you're trying to do that somebody hasn't already done or is doing right now, right? So find solace in that. Take calculated risk, but don't let things that people have already done and gotten through stop you from making that move. Yeah. And then if like insurance is a real big deal for you, you're like, get your consultancy to a point where it's like, it's a lot of money anyway, but get your consultancy to a point where you're making enough money where you're like, okay, I can put this, I can pay that for insurance. I can do that out of pocket. God bless the couples where one spouse is in-house somewhere and the other one is consulting. I swear it's like a cheat code. Yes. It's like, shout out to
if you can make that combo work, it's the best.
Yes, 100%.
I still feel like we should be able to cover people that are not our like spouse. Like we should be able to cover like a family member, like a sister.
A lot of thoughts on healthcare. We'll probably dive into that later. We'll talk offline about that. But yes, like it's funny because that's been my same situation. Like everything that I was afraid of or was like, oh God, I need a financial advisor, I need this, I need that, all these things I need. It's like these people are in your network already. Talk to people, right? Word of mouth. And it's funny because I do this blogging thing for a living, but there's no better way to assess if somebody's going to be a good fit for you or not than talking to somebody else that directly worked with that person. Forget the vlog, forget the paid ads, forget all that stuff. Like talk to somebody that had an experience with that person. And again, and I know I'm like wrapping everything into everything, but this goes back into even how I run my consultancy, right? Like I try to make sure everybody has an amazing experience because people talk. It's like, it's the conversations that you can't see are the real ones, like the ones that are going on in group texts and Slack groups and all this other stuff. So it's just like, this applies to everything that you do. You know what I mean? Like just, and I always say this, I'm like, I want to be the type of person to other people that I needed somebody to be for me. Right. So, just pouring into other people and, because honestly, Jess Cook, shout out to my girl, Jess. Yeah. She was the first person I talked to on LinkedIn that was like, you can do this. I had probably like 800 connections or something like that. And this was like from 10 years ago. And she was like, you can do this. Like, don't be afraid. Start posting. She spoke that life into me. You know what I mean? And then just like all I needed was somebody to believe in me. And then I took that and just, you know what I mean? So sometimes that's all I see.
Yes. And we need to make sure we are that person for each other. Like you want to be Jess Cook for like how she was for Lashay. We want to be that for other people and pass that on and pay it forward, right? As people say, and just make sure we're always lifting other people up who come to us for help. I love that.
Yes. That's my way of paying it forward for sure. Yeah.
Yes. Shay, I need to make my episodes like 3 hours so I can keep talking to you. But I feel like no one wants an episode that long. But next time, thank you so much for coming on another therapy session with me. It helps me personally, so I appreciate it.
I've seen the growth that you've made since we've last talked, like what you've done and your name on marketing lists as they should be. I just want to let you know, like, I'm proud of you too. Like, we're out here doing what things together. So
I love that. Thank you so much. I swear I'm getting like, so Lashay, first she was one of the first people who gave me goosebumps, and now she's going to make me cry on the podcast. Each time new level. Next time I'll be sobbing.
speaking of next time, we got to we need to do like a dual show. We got to get Taz on the show. We'll come back and do like a joint episode and talk about some stuff. That'll be fun. But
Yes, I love that. Also, everyone stay tuned because Lashay and Taz, follow them on LinkedIn. But there's some things a brewing that I'm excited to hear about, and maybe I'll promote it as soon as it's available for external eyes. So excited to see that come about. But thank you, Lashay, and thank you everyone for listening. You have to follow Lashay. I'm sure you already are, but if not, definitely do so. Reach out to us on LinkedIn. And please share this episode with a friend who would benefit from this. Play it again, write a review, rate the show. It helps us get in front of more folks who need the entertainment. But thank you all. Appreciate it. Have a great day.